All right, I'm hitting record. Michelle, you should do an intro for this part though, like like you know what I mean, like
The post intro.
yeah, whatever you, however you
Well,
conceptualize
folks,
that.
you just saw excerpts of us, or rather, listened to a few excerpts of us.
No, hold on, cut.
We're releasing the whole episode of us recording too.
No, but the context is that we just watched the movie, not that they just listened to us, because that's not going to be, you know what I mean?
Okay, I thought I thought that's how it was. I thought it was the intro, us talking, and then now is after that. Is that separate?
No, we're going to talk about we're going to talk about the movie that we just watched. We're going to pretend that there's not an audience with us at all.
Okay.
Or you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And I'm going to edit in clips of us talking about parts that we talk about.
Okay, now I know what you're saying. Okay,
so yeah, that's sick, dude. Folks, I'm Michelle Perez. As always, I'm joined by Jake, my buddy Ruben. Right now, Eliza Gager is at a martial arts retreat, learning how to throw new types of kunai. I usually am not at a loss for words. If you've listened to this podcast at all.
Oh man.
I'm always ready to fire from the hip. I just watched a more insane premise than Assassin 33 AD, whereupon there is a reality in which like the tilling of a field, but the field is time and blood and flesh and death, as well as life. And every few weeks to possibly years, a group of children is summoned to help Martin Luther King reach true ego death and kill himself, not through means of suicide, but through the advanced clandestine infrastructure of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. That's right, folks. These kids keep going back in time to make Martin Luther King die by convincing himself to die. That is the premise of our film tonight that we've seen. Our Friend Martin.
We did it.
We did it, folks.
We just decided to watch it. We were so...
We couldn't stop talking about it. We couldn't stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
And
usually... And we also didn't have anything on the docket.
You always say that.
I don't always say that.
Producer
frequently we have guests on this show.
I was going to say,
things.
Oh my, killing me right now. Suffice to say, I disagree with Jake's premise fully. I wanted to do something about this and went ahead and contacted Jake about coordinating this. That is a thing that happened. That said, man, what a fucking movie. What a fucking movie this was. They showed this in schools. Take us back for a moment.
I want to recap, and I might even go back and dig up the clip from the Fortnite episode, but this all started because Ruben brought this to my attention.
I didn't know it was real.
Yeah, I never saw this as a kid. I went to school in Atlanta, Georgia, at several different schools. I went all the way up to 6th grade with the age these kids are in a public school and never once saw this weird ass thing. Although I guess to be clear, no, I would have been right age, roughly, right? 1999, I was 9 years old. So this just went way under my radar. I like to think because the people in charge of me as a kid realized it was very strange.
Strange doesn't begin to.
Yeah, no.
God.
I mean, to be clear, strange doesn't even start. That's why we that's why I like fucking derailed the Fortnite episode in the first place. If you go and look at this film, it's an hour-long educational animated movie that has just an obscene voice cast. You know, to the extent at which you have to believe a lot of these people were doing it for not much money, if at all, you know, or scale or something like that, because of unionization. But this is like one of those Martin Luther King estate calls you up and asks you to do a weird educational video about the life of MLK.
Yeah, are you gonna say no?
Yeah, so they get, I mean, the main characters are voiced, let's be clear, the main characters are voiced by people who are much less kind of well known, and that means they are recorded a lot more lines of dialogue. But amongst the people that are talking in this movie, you have LeVar Burton, Jaleel White, Ed Asner, Angela Bassett, Danny Glover, Whoopi Goldberg, Samuel L. Jackson, James Earl Jones, Ashley Judd, Richard Kind, Yolanda King, Susan Sarandon, John Travolta, Oprah Winfrey, Frank Welker. That's like all the famous people, but to be clear, that's like quite a few. And
Oof.
it's like the 90s version of a you know, like a what's that song they all came together to sing? I'm terrible.
Oh, we are the world.
This is We Are the World vibes. This is big We Are the World vibes. Everyone's just showing up. They're going to record like 2 or 3 lines as a racist dad or a sexy school teacher if you're Susan Sarandon, or a half racist bus driver if you're Richard Kind. This is also,
it's an alternate reality racist bus driver. Normal
Yeah,
reality.
that's what I mean by
dude.
That's right. That's hence the half. But good point.
No.
It's a theoretically racist bus driver if we
Yeah.
don't kill Martin Luther King Jr.
Exactly.
Yeah. And he drives completely normal in racism world.
Yeah, he drives really well.
He's so good at driving. You get him in non-racist world, he's like
Yeah,
hitting mailboxes.
At the beginning of the film, he's a god awful driver.
It's the bad driving we depend on because it keeps saving kids' asses from bullies as he plows through a fucking public bench and just blows wood shrapnel over children.
Right.
Yeah, it's the 3-act structure has nothing to do with this film, which is essentially Fisher Price's My First Pulp Fiction. It is a series of vignettes of Martin Luther King's life where these kids clearly stick out like sore thumbs. We'll more on that later, but basically the premise of the film is made immediate. There are 2 things that stuck with me about the intro. One, featuring a cast of and then superimposed over Martin Luther King Jr.'s face, Ed Asner. I gotta say, I wouldn't have done alphabetical order here, but that's just me. Second thing, the opening bits of animation, one, are very stark. I wouldn't be surprised if someone that was an art lead or big director or producer for Todd McFarlane's Spawn, the HBO series, worked on this, because these kids all look like Todd McFarlane Spawn, the animated series characters. And it starts with this child who isn't immediately recognizable to us only until he is named Martin by his young black friend, that, you know, he's like, oh, is that who this is about? And then a building reforms and a child walks through a door. Is it the past or is it the future?
It starts in media res, which is bizarre. This movie starts with, you don't even know like why this is supposed to be happening. As you know, presumably you're a child watching this movie. You have much less narrative competency than let's say all of us here who just watched it. But it's like you're thrown into this picture of 2 black kids, one of which is modern, one of which is clearly dressed like it's the 50s or whatever. And he's like, no, I have to go back. sorry. And the other kid's like sobbing, like, don't do it, Martin. And you're like, what is he going back to? And then Martin walks through a door while a busted down house reassembles itself around him. And then he ages up to present day Martin Luther King. And then the real movie starts and you flash back to the opening of the film. It's an absurd like way to start the film, if you ask me, as if I was making a film for kids to watch about this very subject.
Well, you need the kid. I think if by design, it must be just a hook for kids to be like, fucking history show. This is some horse shit. But seeing Martin Luther King jump into a fucking portal.
Right.
And there are kids like, you can't do it now. Now you're hooked. You're like, I gotta know what's in that house. Why the fuck it's made of just time energy.
That is a fair. You know what? That's a pretty fair point. Like you gotta.
It's the mystery. It's the intrigue.
You gotta get.
It's the prestige.
Yeah. I guess
fascinating.
They're not going to learn about the assassination of MLK by themselves.
Yeah. You do have to have a little.
I think what could be wild. You're a teacher. It's the MLK segment. It's the first time you're teaching these fucking kids. They don't know, and you're just like, hey, let's start with this movie about someone that did some cool stuff. Not going to tell you anything about it.
This isn't even about the assassination. This movie basically presupposes that the assassination just happens. They don't question it one bit. They don't show you any details about it. They don't tell you who the guy who shot MLK was. They're just
significant characters push back on that immediately.
Yeah.
If questioned about causality as it relates to this. The bigger thing that trumps this is fucking with the time loop, the time stream. That is what Whoopi Goldberg's character says. I think 2 points in the film.
Right. You know what? I just want to get.
So it's like the age old, you know. Well, if you could go back that far using Martin Luther King's watch, like.
Before we get too deep into this episode, I want to let our listeners know. There is a YouTube link to this. You can find it for free, and I will have included it in the show notes. We highly encourage you to just watch it before you listen here. If you've got an hour on hand, even if you want to skip through it and just see some silly parts, it's very much you will hopefully get what
I am not feigning disgust or confusion at any point. This is not a bit.
No,
that said,
this is just a real thing.
So there is a ceiling to the powers of the watch. You're only going into Martin Luther King's time stream specifically.
That's right. You will always show up right next to Martin Luther King.
Actually, come to think of it, let's just do a little bit of Martin Luther King Jr. Let's look up when he was born. Martin Luther King Jr. All right. January 15th, 1929. Boy, am I glad.
Yeah.
That was when he was born. So these kids can go back in time.
They basically go to right before World War II.
You could have went back in time right before World War II.
When Martin Luther King is a 12-year-old.
When Martin Luther King he's a baby at this point. You just like negotiate. Obviously, you're probably not going to want to travel in tandem if you're a multiracial group like our protagonists are. And then you're going to want to like go across the ocean blue to like warn people in Germany and like say, do you need to kill this specific painter?
Yeah, can you imagine if there was like a German version of this movie?
Yeah. You would.
No, Hitler, stay in the present with us.
Stay in the present with us.
I have to go back to the past to die. It is the only way to prevent the spread of the Nazi regime.
Oh my god! I mean, that's not too far removed.
What this movie's doing. I'm not kidding. Yeah,
it is not too far removed from the message of this film. And
you have to have had Hitler for there to be no more Hitler. Is basically what they're saying.
You had to have Martin Luther King Jr. die to have people take the message seriously is the implication.
Yeah.
The film never asks
never
that question.
Oh, of course not.
Which is weird.
They don't question the assassination. They don't question the death.
If we assume the writer was just incredibly tone deaf and then wrote this as a legit time travel film,
right?
It could be Martin misinterprets because he doesn't understand time travel.
Oh my God!
Right?
Seeing that future was because he did the work and died, and he's like, I have to die. Then that's what you're telling me happens, right? I gotta do it. But he mistook that he was removed from the timeline before any of his work began.
And we should, like at the end of the movie, he's like, he literally tells the kid, he's like, don't tell me what happens. I just know I have to walk through this door. So he kind of doesn't know that he's walking to his own death, which is messed up.
Well, no, because
I mean, obviously,
the implication is also that he goes there and lives the entirety of his life as if he didn't know.
Right.
But he also saw the future. And so
he saw the alternate future.
He made a conscious decision. He made a conscious decision to keep doing what he did, but he was doing it predicated on the knowledge that if he didn't do it, this future would be the outcome. So as he forced himself to his death, they don't really talk about that to him directly.
What this movie implies is that when he's standing on the balcony and taking a bullet in the chest, he's thinking back to an alternate future that he himself physically experienced. And he's like, oh, I'm sure glad this happened instead of that.
So this was what was going to have to happen. Instead, nope.
Now this black kid.
It also leaves a pothole because we don't get any insight as to what Martin thinks in the new changed reality where time travelers force him to see a racist future and inspire him to do this work. It also
implies that he grows all the way up. He just straight grows all the way up and then steps out onto a balcony and then gets shot.
So there could have been a great scene of dialogue of Martin being on the balcony and being like, I really hope the future isn't racist, and he gets shot and he's like, why didn't those fucking kids tell me? What the hell? Feeling completely betrayed by these 12-year-olds.
How could you do this?
Oh, Turner gets Turner on the phone. Turner, you Samuel Jackson,
Turner,
you kill those fucking kids. You see them again.
It's 40 years from now, Turner. You gotta go tell these fuckers. Yeah, because when was King shot? This late 60s? 68. Yeah. So this was made 31 years after Martin Luther King died. Not a terribly long time. What a weird, just like, what a weird convergence of things that could only happen like in night. Can you imagine this movie getting made past 1999?
I mean,
yeah.
You gotta remember there's the Adventures in Virtue. There's the sort of revolutionary era kids show where it's a multiracial group of friends around the revolutionary era. So
Rhonda Revolutionary.
No. So I mean, if it's the revolutionary era, and like there were I guess free men in certain areas, and there was a limited discrete like class of people that could be. It's kind of one of those murky things of history where you would assume by default that there were no free people, and that's not the case. Right. The slaves obviously were in much higher numbers, but the weird thing with the chattel slavery was that it became a moral imperative for abolitionists or this or that, but was like a major economic factor across the board.
Right. It funded the whole United States. Just the South.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it wasn't like it also wasn't like the linchpin of everything. The linchpin for American growth was land. But that's that's a whole different can of worms. That said, yeah, going back into this film, it also shows why at some point Ruben or Jake, we were talking about this afterwards. It's one of the sunsetted animated programs.
Yeah, this
after a certain point.
I can't imagine this gets shown in a school these days. This day.
I mean, yeah, it's just
it just doesn't work on many levels.
It doesn't work on many levels. Basically, our lead, a young black man, is constantly accosted by this fit kid who is a bully. He's white, his belly and belly button. The shirts never fit.
Oh, that's
he's wearing an earring on one of his ears.
Do you know when his shirt fits? In the white supremacist timeline.
In the white, no,
it does. You're right.
No.
Yeah,
we see him in the. They're at the speech. Yeah. They're at MLK's speech.
He does get a fitting shirt that time.
He gets a fitting shirt then, and it's the shirt of peace.
Right.
Then they go to the broken timeline, and now he has the same colored shirt to like fake you out of like, oh, it's my friend again, and he's fucking not. It's enemy dingus, fat bully, and he has a long sleeve shirt that fits now.
Fits at home. He's
the peace dove has disappeared from
alternate universe.
Yeah, no. The both of the white kids are then racist by default. But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
I was about to say we're getting ahead of ourselves here.
Yeah, but we'll get there. We'll get there. So yeah. So God, this narrative is already difficult enough to keep track of. So yeah. Basically,
like, what if
basically
Back to the Future or whatever what was that show about jumping around in time? Actually, that was different. This is just like what if
you're thinking of Sliders. That's alternate histories.
You know how they spent a very long time cracking the Back to the Future script? Like it was reportedly like a number of years before they were like, hey, this actually is like a good funny script that also makes like cohesive enough sense for us. Like this is what happens if they don't do that. This is what happens if you make a time travel movie on a deadline.
Yeah. It's strange. Basically, he's getting bullied by this kid. He refers to his mom as constantly working so hard to the point that she's a uppercase slave to her, and she's like lecturing him about needing to study, etc. And he's not really a slacker. He's just a normal kid. Goes to class, bully, all of this bric-a-brac. He has a white friend who is Lucas Black from fucking Sling Blade in peak Sling Blade voice. I thought it was a white. Southern, yeah. I thought it was just some no-name white kid trying to do a Lucas Black impression, but it's just him, and he just sounds like he has a permanent concussion. Like his auditory delivery. It's very weird. Anyhow, requisite Mexican girl who is very smart and is constantly a source of racial friction. No subtext there. And Susan Sarandon is a air quotes white question mark woman.
I think she's white. I think the video transfer that we watched made her look a little darker skinned than because she looks white in the later scene too, and she's got red hair.
She's
voiced by a white lady. But that said, Susan Sarandon voiced an Asian woman in Rick and Morty. So
very true, Jake. The episode Pickle Rick.
It's written by an Asian woman.
Big moment there. That said, she's lecturing him. She's saying, yeah, take these studies seriously. You better not think about Martin Luther King Jr. because of what film you're in. And the following day, they go on a field trip to the Martin Luther King Jr.
Well, also, there's a beat where Miles is like, yeah, who cares about racism, though, to his teacher.
Yeah, everything's
his
cool
white
now.
teacher's like, hey, little black boy, I think maybe you should care about racism.
This is the premise for Robin DiAngelo's White Fragility.
Yeah.
That everyone unanimously agrees on and thinks is a good book. They're all saying this. Uh, I mean, this is sort of an interesting artifact now because sure, that kind of professional class tone of like trying to enforce rhetoric sort of stands the edges off of a real problem.
Right.
So this film is kind of a very early didactic method of trying to have a good end, but when you muddle the aims and the rationale, and you just simply show montages of speeches and the like.
Yeah, they use. I mean, there are several moments in this film because it is an educational cartoon movie where they just cut to archival of MLK and riots,
or they superimpose it back and forth in a flashing manner, like a Ralph Bakshi movie or something.
Yeah.
It shakes you really hard. It's weird. I would think this would be very weird to show children.
Right.
So to take us back, the kids, the multi-ethnic group, are on the field trip and speaking to a very groomer Mary Kay Letourneau Whoopi Goldberg character with bad lip sync.
She's the museum, the MLK museum curator and also time wizard ?
Yeah, because she keeps like leaving openings for them.
Yes,
and it's
specifically lets the children into a cutoff exhibit and places a time traveling watch in their direct sight line. And says, "I hope you guys have a good trip," and then locks them back in the room.
Is this woman a pedophile?
Yeah, thanks, Mrs. Peck.
Yeah, she's letting these children into a closed off area
to wind this old watch.
Well, she has to wind this watch that's on the dresser in the King house.
Boy, I sure do want to point out this watch.
Have a nice trip. What is she doing by that?
She knows what she's doing?
Like you said before.
I don't know what she's talking about.
She just shut them back in.
Has to turn the watch on.
No, she shut them back in and she winded the watch up.
And crosses her arm and does like a knowing nod, sort of like.
And puts a tally mark next to the door.
He puts a tally mark next to the door.
Next to 6 other tally marks.
And she's grooming them, all right, but not for pedophilia reasons. No, she's grooming them to be one of many people that goes back in time and meets Martin Luther King firsthand.
Yeah.
To what end? A terrifying one.
This woman is just sending children back in time willy-nilly.
Yes.
Directly to Martin Luther. It's almost like she's in a time war with Martin Luther King or something.
Yeah. Well, no.
Where she's trying to maybe prevent him from dying.
Yeah.
Keeps failing. Like maybe that's the thing. Is like she at the end of the movie, she's like, "Oh God damn it! It happened again. He chose to go back again," and then she has to start the cycle over.
But yeah, that said, let's see here. I'm saying at this point, it gets weird, but they travel back in time. Black child, Sling Blade, and they meet Martin Luther King Jr. as a junior. This is the deepest voice he has throughout the film at his youngest form. The older incarnation of him will have a higher pitched voice.
Well, they cast 4 separate people. As every time you see Martin Luther King, it's a different guy voicing him because it's a different age, and they couldn't just get Dexter King to pretend to be a child, I guess.
I mean, that's fine, but it's just like you kind of wish they jostled the order around. That said, there's a baseball diamond. They're like playing together, and basically a white woman tells them that
Ashley Judd comes up and calls them the N-word or does all but.
No, she says, all of you coloreds, you Negroes, and like basically like tries to shoo them using all but the N-word, and is just like, you're just all looking for trouble. Just get away from those coloreds, etc. And well, suffice to say, Martin Luther King is a little more animated here, and it's like, you're right. Honestly, I'm tired of this racism. It's killing me inside. the kids lean back or touch a baseball glove or something, it's imbued with this plasmic force that sends them to the future to a train. An old man thinks they're circus folk. But again, no, this is a segregated area.
We get a little Back to the Future.
Yeah, and basically this keeps happening at pivotal moments. We don't have to hit all of them, but suffice to say, a significant difference is after Martin Luther King stops being a child, he is an adult man voiced by LeVar Burton, who has no memory of the children. And basically, a violent event occurs, and Samuel Jackson is a ringleader for a countervailing race riot as a response. Then Martin Luther King gives an impassioned speech to basically meet love or hate with love, and to, you know, not violently aggress against your aggressors, citing Mahatma Gandhi. And I mean, it's interesting to learn that dude's past, knowing what we know now.
They do like what is essentially, you know, like a crane shot in animation, but they do a cut to the top of MLK's house, and then it's like Gandhi's just being projected on MLK's roof when
Gandhi is now clipping.
They have to show pictures of Gandhi so that you know what he's talking about with your child, I guess.
Yeah.
And as soon as he says Gandhi, they cut to MLK's roof and just Gandhi's big.
Yeah, there he is. There he is.
Mahatma Gandhi drove the British out of peacefully.
And now he's stuck in my roof.
By doing right in the name of humanity.
Now my Harry Potter roof has the Gandhi soul in it.
For those in the classroom, write down when you where did you see Gandhi? His roof, his lawn, the street. But yeah, Samuel Jackson, of course, sounds very commanding post Pulp Fiction. It's very jarring in animation seeing him try to be an animated character doing a race riot. And basically, this is where things start getting insane, because the children encounter a race riot.
Right.
And
So,
the tone
right before they get transported back to the present. Yes.
they encounter a race riot, and they are not only encountering it but are active participants in it, running away, hiding,
Dodging
and
the
in
fire.
dodging the fires, and animated dogs flashing back and forth between archival footage of the actual events happening. And the tone the kids have in their polite conversation is just like, oh, what's going on? What's this here? Like, the only thing missing is the old Mario meme of the two walking up to a gate superimposed into anything, because that's quite literally this scene, but with two non-licensed character children. It's like, wow, what's all this wild stuff? Oh, you're getting mauled by a dog just for wanting to go to the automat or something. Like, it's one of the weirder examples of something Trump recently, only by Fortnite MLK Jr. Event.
Right.
It's
kind of the reason we're here.
It's so insanely jarring, because the scene they transition to next is back into the future, and they've just been like, wow, we learned.
Escaped directly from the race riot into the present, and they're like, all right, cool, and guess we better go back to class.
And they go to class, and they're in class, and Susan Sarandon is showing archival footage with actual real life people, and spliced in, who are those two kids but the young black man and Hee-Haw, Miles and Randy, shuffling about, and people being hosed, real life people. Imagine it. You crawled over barbed wire so that
several times in the movie where I was like, wait, so the kids were back there in the footage? Wait, what? And then as soon as I said that, the children in the movie also said, wait, was that you kids back there in the footage?
And that's when the whole country realized.
Also, like,
the
no one in
laws
the
are
class
wrong
was
and
like,
had to
wait,
change.
you guys are right
It
there.
took a long time, but Martin was so
Hey, what the fuck?
What
He
the
and
fuck?
Kennedy and they united
You were in a
common
fucking
cause.
Lakers jersey in that.
Equality for
Miles,
all.
you a time traveler?
Excellent, boys. Who do they think they are? Me? Wait a minute. Isn't that...
Yeah, look, I called it!
Oh my god!
I'm a
You got
genius.
clone.
And that looks just like Randy next to him.
Granted, he shares my suave good looks.
And the kids start lying through their fucking teeth. They're like,
Yeah.
wow, they're dressed like you too. It's really weird. And they're bearing the lead of, oh wait, this is a terrible moment in our
The
history.
most time travel the movie gets. Like, it's very silly.
The time travel erases so much of the actual history that it becomes a problem in the story
just
and
the
the
premise.
conflict of the film.
Just the premise of watching footage of the race riots in your class and then being like, is that Randy back there?
Why is Randy animated? When else around him is live action? And they show the reflection in the glasses of a young white man, just to like drive home that no, like this is actually happening. This is what's going on. And at that point, yeah, it becomes a snake eating its own tail, as many time travel stories become. I think knowing what they know, it comes up that Martin Luther King is going to be assassinated. So the kids get the plan to pull Martin Luther King Jr. out of the timeline.
That's right.
And
That's the end of the presentation they're watching. They decide we have to go back. We can't let this happen to our friend Martin. Ding, ding, ding.
and
they get followed by the bully and the Mexican girl.
yeah, the Mexican girl is basically wanting to ruin racial unity. The fat kid is not implied by the film to be gay, but is going out of his way to constantly wear midriff shirts and complain about them. And each subsequent time his midriff shirt gets torn up and his nipples are exposed, and it's awful.
Also has an ear piercing.
Also has an ear piercing.
Single loop left ear.
Single loop left ear,
Big
folks.
90s, big 90s vibes.
That said, at that point, it's the coherence of the movie changes sharply because, all right, we pulled you out. You're going to be safe with us in this non-racist future. But oh, wait, the kids forget that if he isn't alive and lives his life to that point, no matter what, by default,
Everything will change.
he will have created a bubble universe whereupon Martin Luther King is not just gone from that specific discrete moment in time, but never comes back until delivered back.
That's right. So they return to the future with a young MLK, and everything is terrible.
This is a society where racism exists still.
Yeah, such wretched things occur as
It's unimaginable.
the kid's mom is now poor.
His mom is not.
Previously was not.
Yeah, she was affluent. She owned electronics. These are the only class signifiers in this view
right.
of a racist
right.
future.
He doesn't have a computer or video games anymore.
Doesn't have a computer or video games or a bunch of consumer goods. His walls aren't lined with
Started her
stuff.
own job. That's important.
Yeah.
She started her own
Mother's-
business.
Yeah.
And
The
now
mother.
she's like a maid. In
the mother is a
alternate
maid.
world. She's just a maid. She can't get a better work. They get kicked.
All
out
women
of
of color are just maids. You're just a maid, 100%.
Yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, that's
across
right.
the
Because
board.
they find the Mexican girl.
The Mexican girl's mom is cleaning the hallways with her, and
And the
neither of them
Mexican
know
girl
English
didn't
now.
learn English in the racist future.
And
Wonder
she's-
what that's
We just
about.
importing
And-
maids.
And she's 10 years old and employed. So in the racist future, child labor laws never got revoked either.
Yeah. And the Ed Asner teacher is basically his character from Boondocks.
Yes,
And
that's
hates
when the
women.
Boondocks shows up. calls a teacher, calls Susan Sarandon a useless lady.
Because earlier, as she said in the class, the Mexican girl cited Cesar Chavez,
Yeah.
Gloria
Yeah.
Steinem.
They say, okay, yes. So MLK paved the way for people like Cesar Chavez and Gloria Steinem.
Yeah, and if he didn't pave the way, then no one would have taken discrete action.
That's right.
Or collective action. This is a gormless world where no one is lionized and that it's all one man.
Nobody learned to take nonviolent action, and so we all failed to revoke racism.
Although honestly, what's weird is also not reacting violently or solely being passive to a regressive, autocratic, definitively ultranationalist right wing, as this future would be, or just as equally possible a liberal version of this. Fucking that sort of nonviolence, it exists on the same spectrum. So,
right.
Is nonviolence exclusively the best way forward? We'll never fucking know in racism future. Imagine a world with racism in it, folks.
Folks, it's a world where racism still happens, and MLK looks around. 12-year-old MLK looks around and is like, "Oh no!
Oh fuck me! No!
What have I done?
What did you do?
What did you do? What have I done?"
Yeah, like
and
young James Corden.
Back to the house. They try to go back to the MLK Museum. It's decrepit.
It's destroyed.
It doesn't exist anymore. It's broken down. And that's where and then we're back at the start of the movie, which is where the movie opens. You got the two kids, MLK and the modern kid, and they're sitting on the stoop, and they're like, "What are we gonna do?" And MLK's like, "Wait, so if you brought me here, then that means I didn't get to go on to change the world so that you could be friends with that white kid and that Mexican girl, like I saw earlier in the movie." And the black kid's like, "Yeah, I guess so." And he's like, "Well, I guess I have to go back." And then the kid's like, "But wait, yo," and Martin Luther King goes, "No, don't tell me." And he just turns and walks into the doorway of the decrepit, broken house, which is not a real doorway. And the whole house reforms around him in a time reversal bubble. And he ages up immediately into the 34-year-old Martin Luther King, or however old he was. And he steps out of the door that he walked through in the time.
It gets
blasted. The cut is just like a silhouette wide shot of the balcony upon which he gets killed. And then cut to black gunshot. It's so like quite literally insinuating that he steps from a 12-year-old boy all the way up into his 34-year-old death in one instance. Oh my god! Whoa! No! He literally steps out of the door and gets shot. Incredibly fucked up.
So there isn't a time. There is not a time jump. So in order for the world to reform,
shows him aging up. It just shows him going, like, literally morphing into old MLK and then stepping out and then getting killed.
Yeah,
it's like a science fiction horror story.
Because in order for the world to reform perfectly around Miles, like he fucking
right. This is all to reset the world back into the regularity that we.
That would be instantaneous. Then it's really weird, but it kind of joshes with it being a 1-to-1 representation of like, okay, well he did that. Now my world isn't racist anymore.
That's right.
Or after that gunshot.
That's right.
And it was a sacrifice.
So we go back, yeah, and it's just framed as if like, at no point is Miles like, how can we fix this? How can we save both of you? Never asked his teacher about it. It's this very interesting implication where you just have the feeling that this movie was 100% made to get you to stop thinking about MLK and shut the fuck up.
I mean, Whoopi Goldberg's character is questioned by Miles, like, but like we could go back, like we could keep him here as an adult past that
It's like
point.
a time agent. She's a time agent that has to ensure the assassination of MLK, but likes to fuck around. That's what I think.
It's like one of those situations where it's like one of those people that sets themselves up to be like a race apostate or like a gender apostate or something, where it's like, no, I'm much different than these other people. And like white supremacy can't be the animating part of me being here, because as you can clearly see, I am not white. But it's like, as a concept, the idea of white supremacy includes collusion from non-whites in order, or collusion or coercion by non-whites in order to keep said system moving. It's passive. It's a big thing beyond your comprehension as a body of not only beliefs but like non-beliefs, like passive actions baked into you, or baked into the schema of society, where that's the only things you see, and then those are the only outcomes that will happen. Which, I mean, there's a lot of talk back and forth on that. What is that, like a sort of method of social contagion? Because there's a lot of bunk about social contagion or blah, 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 back and forth. I can't answer those things to you definitively because I'm not a fucking anthropologist or a social scientist. I could say from gut feeling that, like, yeah, always beware someone that's telling you to constantly lower your expectations.
Yeah.
Because for the most part, like, or that your expectations are inherently wrong, just because like maybe it brushes against the mainstream narrative. There's a danger to like kind of having a conspiratorial bent, or the animating force in your ideological ends being overemphasized on violence. Sure, but to simply question who stands to gain and who doesn't, like, we're kind of living through it now.
Yeah,
and
I mean, the thing that you know most prevalent about this movie's made 21 years ago. It's both completely irrelevant to today, and also nothing's really changed from 1999 and now in a macro sense, I suppose.
Or in some, I will say there has been substantive change on some social and cultural level, in terms of class alignment, and also outcomes. That there seems to be little in the way of argument, or there seems to be little in the way of like substantively saying this is like the best time it is alive to be this minority or that minority. This is the best time to be black, definitively. Like, okay, on some cultural level, on some maybe access to work level, that's where it gets muddled. Has American society changed enough? Can't really definitively say.
Right.
There are some good things, but there are a great deal of bad things still at play. There's a lot of resentments. I think also people always boil it down to white versus black. No, all different types of races across the board have weird, erroneous beefs with one another that persist to this day. It goes across ideological lines, rhetorical lines. There's people like constantly harping on solidarity with the Arab cultures, or let's say, particularly, how could you be LGBTQ and support Palestine when you know how regressively they think about you or whatever. And it's like if your idea of solidarity and not wanting genocide hinges on one thing where it's like, okay, yes, there's a lot of that right wing and very violent sentiment, and there's a lot of regressive things in this place or that place, but that shouldn't be your concept of someone deserving humanity and not deserving to be a victim of genocide is contingent on self-interest. I don't give a fuck is the short answer. And it seems like I get why it's easy to make didactic media like this, to simplify an issue, because to stare at it clear-eyed, it's insane. How difference, how identity, how who gets to have a better lot in life. We don't have our hands on that wheel, and a great deal of people trying to move you one way or the other try to say, no, your hands have always been on the wheel, or I'm tired of your hands being on the wheel. Quite honestly, are we ever going to get our hands on the wheel? It's a fucking game of Calvin ball,
right?
But yeah, this film was too funny to fall into that actual substantive part of the discussion. Like, watching it now, like, could you imagine watching this as a kid and what outcome you're supposed to get? Like, Ruben, when you watched this movie as a kid, like, what was your takeaway?
That's what I want to talk about to end the show. Is like, how, like, because you brought us into this, Ruben. You were the one that brought it up and like kind of introduced us to this. Like, how did this make an impact on you as a kid? Did you already know about these things in where you grew up?
So technically, yeah, we were taught really well on those things. I went to a school that was brand new, and it was run by like a teacher union. They were super into teaching. Again, my teacher, Miss Matobi, she was really cool. But damn, I couldn't at this point remember what the impact of that was over 20 years ago. I know that it was tight because it meant ML King Month was sick ass movie plays, and we really don't do shit all day.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like you definitely remembered it enough to bring it up in the last episode.
Oh yeah, because it was like an annual event. It's Black History Month.
Insane plot to us.
Black History Month starts. We have several really cool black teachers, and they were like, "Yo, we're not doing shit this month.
Hell yeah,
we're learning about black people."
Yeah.
Drop everything else, and they had a huge initiative. I can't remember my second teacher. I remember Miss Armstrong was the black lady teacher. She was very cool, and there was this cool motherfucker. I can't remember his goddamn name, but he would come to school in full African like ceremonial garbs and be like, "Here's my picture of me with Beyonce and shit," and I'm like, "Where the fuck? What organization are you meeting these people at?" And he would just talk about cool shit that he did for like community fundraising and like culture centers.
Dr. Louis Baraka.
I can't remember his fucking name. I can't remember anything else. I remember those two teachers because that Miss Matobi and Armstrong were tight. Nice. In terms of impact, though, that's a number. That's the number of neurons that are completely dead.
You didn't walk out of your classroom being like, "Wow, I sure am glad they shot that guy."
You know what? The one impact was who shot that guy.
They don't even try to blame it on it, like, you know, the guy who got charged with it or anything. They don't mention none of it. I'm
so sure though. I have a phantom memory that there is a different cut that it shows a different assassination. Maybe it was a different cartoon if we've done this before. But I remember it not happening on the balcony like that. I remember him being in the living room. I remember all the 4 kids being out in the outside the time vortex, being like, "We fucked this up," and then like a shadowed figure in a window firing. But I've been trying to look and I can't find anything.
I want to figure out what that's from now. Yeah. I wonder if there's another cartoon depiction of Martin Luther King getting assassinated.
I mean,
Thin Ice, Jake.
Probably.
Thin Ice,
plot
Jake.
point.
I'm just saying, it's America, baby.
Thin Ice.
I'm just saying.
My God, it's
This is such a weird one, and honestly, thanks for indulging us this week.
This is.
We kind of had to get this one out of our system, even though it's
folks.
maybe not the funniest thing. It's the weirdest.
No,
fucking weird.
It is genuinely funny in that this is a dim view.
Yeah,
you can quite literally do the premise of this film with this film. You can look into the future.
Right. That's the thing. Is like
from this film.
This film doesn't project anything that's terribly bleak in comparison to the problems of today.
If you look at it now, is this substantively different than any messaging we receive today? Whether it be with large multinational brands, whether it be across a range of subject matter that deals with the sort of reparative social functions and aims towards like a better future. Do people sand off the entirety of what happened to be palatable, but also not directly meaningfully challenge its own audience when the aim is purely didactic? I mean, that's the thing. This is funny in the context for me that this sort of thing exists everywhere. And to be fair, it isn't all bad. As much as people do become Steven Universe, ISIS, or whatever, I do think the aim of a show having a trans lead and being like, you aren't little freaks that deserve to be lynched or constantly meme the 42% suicide attempt number. You're okay. You're little guys or little fucking genderless beings. Blah blah blah. Like that's a genuinely okay social good. I don't think it should be the only place it comes from. And the aim is okay.
Mm-hmm.
But now like it's mainly corporatized.
Mm-hmm.
This seemed to be from a further back era where it was kind of came from like was this produced by the King Estate?
This was produced by Deke Entertainment and a company called Intellectual Properties Worldwide. There's no mention on Wikipedia of this being produced by the King Estate. It was distributed by 20th Century Fox.
Okay.
I'm fairly certain that in order for it to get made, the King Estate would have had to license Martin Luther King's likeness or something like that. However, it really just seems to have been made as a
kind of after school or during school thing.
Endeavor, I guess. Like, I don't even. That's the thing. I should have tried to do a little more research into how this fucker got actually made, but there's not much out there, to be honest. Like, even upon quickly looking,
it's probably just meant to be sort of
which all the more makes me think that Deke Entertainment and Intellectual Properties Worldwide means Deke Entertainment and the United States government.
It's done through Deke and a cutout
in a fucking shell core. Yeah, exactly. Like,
absolutely.
What is that? Come on. Like,
intellectual
this was produced by the FBI is who it was made by. They literally wanted to make a movie that was like, hey, he had to die.
I mean, there's so many significant parts of it. If you think about now and the George Floyd uprisings and a sort of living in this era as well as the COVID era and several back-to-back crises in the States. I remember specifically Nancy Pelosi saying that George Floyd made a sacrifice for us all.
Yeah.
When George Floyd nailed himself to the cross and made that man kneel on his fucking neck until he died.
Yeah.
And the police like did it like a week later, same thing, beat for beat, complete with the guy smiling into the camera as he did it. A whole different guy that isn't that officer.
Right.
And that's the thing. Literally nothing has changed. Doesn't mean nothing can change, but look at where people's messages get basically taken from them.
Mm-hmm.
Even you don't even get dignity in death.
Mm-hmm.
That is the flip side of the coin of lionizing a person.
Mm-hmm.
It's that Martin Luther King can effectively be used as not just a cudgel, but the single biggest cudgel against anyone wanting anything better when it is when his life and his actions are sort of weaponized by people who want to control those terms.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's not going away. You sort of need to. I don't know if you need to watch this movie. It's not like we're showing you.
I mean, if you have an hour to kill, you can.
It's not like you're watching Goatsy or something. But
you can spend longer. You spend longer listening to this. Yeah, go on YouTube.
Yeah, this just
get over there.
Our world is just full of charlatans trying to soft sell you on the better way forward.
Mm-hmm.
And you need your own people, and you need your guts, and you need morality. When I say guts, like your gut instinct, you need to try to reconcile the fact people might be trying to take you for a ride. And I'm not saying that was the aim of this specifically, but if it isn't, I don't know what the fuck it is. On that note, no message here.
Nobody knows. Nobody. Yeah, no moral.
No moral.
This movie is fucking. Oh, no moral other than the FBI killed.
The FBI murdered Martin Luther King.
Yeah, Martin Luther King. They also referenced JFK in this movie, which I thought was funny.
They referenced JFK. Yes.
They referenced JFK bailing MLK out with Bull Connor, the Alabama commissioner, and it's like, oh yeah, how'd that work out for you, JFK?
The one time they actually cite like something specifically, and they have a little placard under his name and everything.
Right.
Bull Connor, yeah. And it's for that really tenuous.
It's just so, like, I wonder. It's so weird how both of those guys ended up shot by a mysterious rifleman.
Yeah,
it's fucking crazy.
I mean, but that's how the cookie crumbles.
Yeah.
No. We see it now. The DHS and the FBI specifically worked against Black Lives Matter activists and other activists, much in the way they did in COINTELPRO of the past.
Yeah. And
these are grassroots people that just showed up. And there was a sudden outbreak of every time you had a Ferguson person with an iconic photo, they ended up in the back of a police car, magically nightcrawling a fucking gun into their hand and blowing their own brains out.
Yeah.
They kept ending up murdered in police trunks. And
this is a
no
good
one knows
sidebar,
what happened.
Or a good side note to say that when we get Eliza back, we will do an InfoSec episode, DIY InfoSec episode.
Absolutely. Yeah, they are coming to kill you.
Yeah.
They're coming to kill us all. The upshot is there are more of us than there are of them. To that end, never despair. Never.
No, I had a side note.
Oh.
Ruben's side note
for you.
Ruben's side note.
I came back from getting my concealed carry weapons permit today.
That's what's up.
He said he has the clicky.
Ruben's
so that shit's like, that shit's not even like $100.
Didn't take very long. I take it.
It's about 4 hours, and then you're ready to go.
All right.
Congratulations. Do
Did you
not
have
do
to take a
desk
written
pop.
test.
So we're gonna just try one out the desk here, concealed desk file.
Oh no.
I really hate that you're using the guns clacking motion for
that
an
came through pretty
exclamation
clean.
point.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
He quite literally has that thing on him. All right, yeah, good job to Ruben for getting a gun. Never despair, never give in.
Yeah.
Keep
Don't go back in time to get yourself killed.
never be caught lacking.
Yeah.
All right, this
Same
has
thing.
been Michelle Perez, Jake, Buddy Ruben, Spectral Eliza Gager, and this has been Working on It. Click clack.
My mama's home cooking is hot, tasty, and unsegregated.
Martin,
Clip that shit.